Hey, what's going on, everybody? Back with another how-to. Today we're going to be replacing the belt on this 2014 Nissan Altima. Now this is a 2.5 four-cylinder, and this should fall in line with any 5th gen Altima 2.5 four-cylinder, which is 2013 to 2018. So let's get into it now. Alright guys, and just a quick note before we get started. I actually installed a new belt on this car about a year or so ago, and I recorded the whole job, had a full video for it, but unfortunately my hard drive crashed and I lost all the footage. So all the footage from that original job is completely gone. We're about a year and a half later since I did the job, and now of course the car is getting a noise again, so we're doing this job again just to simply diagnose the noise. That's what I'm going to be doing, but I am going to be doing the whole belt job from start to finish, step by step, taking the belt off, putting the belt back on. But if you see that the same belt is going back on, it's simply because the belt is still good, because I did it about like a year ago. Like I said, it just needed to be diagnosed for a sound, and it gave me the opportunity to make this video again. So let's go ahead and get into it now. Hey guys, this is a noise here. She ain't happy. Definitely coming for the belt drive. There she goes. Woo! Alright guys, so we're here on the passenger side of the car, which is where our belt drive and belt accessories and everything in relation to the belt drive and the belt is. So we're going to go ahead and remove the passenger wheel to go ahead and gain access to everything we need to get to the belt and the belt drive. Now, I have the vehicle on jack stands, so I have both front corners on jack stands, and if you're looking to get your 5th gen Altima safely on jack stands, I'll leave a link in the description for my video on getting all 4 corners safely on jack stands. So now that we have the car in the air on jack stands, we're going to go ahead and remove this front passenger wheel. Now, the lug nuts are a 21 mil, so I just have a 21 mil here on my impact. We're going to go ahead and fire all these right out. Alright guys, so as you can see, we have the wheel off here, and now we have access to our splash guards and fender liner and all that to gain access to our belt drive. So the first thing we're going to remove is this inner splash guard. If you're familiar with doing oil changes, the oil filter is right behind here, so you've probably taken this panel off before. It's held in with 5 plastic retainer clips. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the bottom. On this car here, looks like we actually lost one. These things tend to break and disintegrate over time. They just like get dry rotted and fall out. I have replaced quite a few of these clips before. Looks like I'm gonna have to replace this one as well, so we did lose that one. But what we're gonna do is go ahead and pop these clips out. So I'll just start right here. Just got a panel popper here, nothing special. You're just gonna pop the inner part out, and literally the clip is going to fall right out. So we're just going to do that for all 5 of these clips. Well, in my case 4, but hopefully you have all 5 still. So if you got all 5, you're going to pop all these out, and then we're going to go ahead and remove this splash guard. Alright guys, so now I have the bottom clip out. Just have the one last one retaining right here. That'd be the one I suggest to pull out last, because then you can just easily drop that down. And now, as you can see, we have a little bit more access here to our splash guard. Now I'm going to do one more thing here, and I'm going to remove the front part of this inner fender liner. Okay, so I'm going to pull the clips for this and the screws retaining it, which we're going to go over in a second, and then I'm going to pull this around and pull it back so we have as much access here between the motor, the belt drive, and the belt and the subframe and everything right here. So we're going to go ahead and get this fender liner out, and we'll move that and give all the access we need to get this done. Alright guys, for the fender liner, we're going to remove this 1, 2, and 3 push clips. And you can see there's a line right here. That's really all we need to remove to. So every clip from here to that line is what we're going to remove. So same deal. These clips are a bit different variant from the ones that are on the inner splash guard that cover the oil filter, but same principle. You just take a panel popper and then pop that thing right out. So we're going to pop that one out, and then we're going to get the 3 retaining screws on the bottom to the bumper, and then we'll be able to pull this fender liner off. All right, guys, so we have all 3 of the inner clips that I referred to popped out. We have one more that's right here underneath the side of the bumper, so we're going to go ahead and use our panel popper. This one's new because I replaced it and it's pretty tight, which is good. That's what we wanted. So let me get this one out. There we go. And as you can see, we got 3 Phillips heads just retaining that to the bumper. So I just have a Phillips on the impact here. I'm just going to fire these bad boys out. 1, 2, last one here's 3, and we got all 3 of those out. And as you can see, this now moves, and I guess she ran over a cigarette. It's pretty funny, but yeah, we're good. This should be popped out now, guys. So we got everything retaining this. Let's get back to the passenger side and the wheel well, and we'll get this pulled back. All right, guys, so we got all that popped out from the bottom. So now should be able to start pulling this fender liner out just like that. All right, and that'll give us all the access here to our belt drive, as you can see. Now what I'm going to do is, if you can see, I got this just hanging right here. We're going to move this around. Sorry if the camera work ain't the best. I'm trying to do this and hold the camera at the same time. It'd be a little easier with 2 hands, but we got it. So as you can see, I just got that pressed behind the rotor. Things nice and tucked away, out of the way. And as you can see, we have full access to our belt drive now. All right, guys, so now that we have access here to our belt and belt drive, we can actually go ahead and relieve the tension on the tensioner. So if you're looking right there, that is your belt tensioner. Now if we look right above that, get some light in there, right there, you see that bolt right there on top of the tensioner, right above the pulley in your screen? That is a 17 mil. So that is going to be turned clockwise, and that is how we relieve the tension on this belt tensioner. Now, if you look right to the right, you'll see those 2 little holes right there. What we need to do is get those 2 holes to align, and I'm going to take a 3/16 Allen key wrench, and once I turn that 17 mil clockwise, we're going to shove the Allen key 3/16 right in those holes when they align to keep the tension off. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a breaker bar with a 17 mil. We're going to throw it on that 17, and then we'll get our Allen key locked in to relieve the tension from this belt tensioner. All right, guys, so if you can see here, I got my breaker bar with a 17 mil right on the 17 mil for our tensioner. So we're going to be turning this clockwise, which is tightening it. So we're essentially going to be tightening it, going that way. And as you can see, if I do that, it puts those holes right in line. So I'm gonna move the light here to get a little bit better for you. I'm gonna go ahead and put the camera down. Should be a decent angle for you to see what's going on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Take my Allen key here, press it in, and bam, that's it. That's simple, guys. And as you can see, the belt is now loose, and we can remove our belt. So honestly, you can just start pulling it from the tensioner, pull it right off. Should just back out. Should. There you go. Jeez. And then it'll go around the crank from the AC compressor up to your water pump and your alternator. So there we go, guys. We're gonna go up to the top of the motor, and then we'll get the rest of this belt off. All right, guys, under the hood here, so you can see the belt right here, right around the alternator. You can literally pull it off. As you can see, I just moved it to the side, and literally you can press it down and drop it. Come back down here, and your belt should be all but removed. There we go, guys. Belt off. completely removed. We're just leaving our Allen key in there for right now because that's keeping that tension off for when we go to put the belt back. All right, guys, so belt is off, and now that we have it off, we can do something that I would recommend you to do because you're more than likely doing this job because you have a noise, a squeal, or you notice your belt was cracked or something like that. Even if you know your belt is bad for 100% fact, like all the ribs are cracked or whatever the case may be, you want to check all your pulleys. And I would definitely do this if you're getting a noise, just to ensure the belt is your issue and maybe not something else. So you can spin your idler pulley. You can hear we got no noise. You can spin the water pump, doing it from the bottom. You can also do it from the top. Come up to the top here, you can see my light, so I got some light for you guys, but there's the alternator pulley. Spin that. So once you get the belt off, spin all your pulleys. You're not going to be able to spin the crank, but spin the alternator, spin the water pump, spin the idler pulley, spin your AC compressor, and make sure you got no noises. Alright guys, back under the hood. As you can see, our alternator is right here. So as I mentioned, we're simply just going to be reinstalling the belt that I installed when I first attempted to record this video and I lost all the footage. But the belt is a Gates. So I don't know if you can see that though. It's a Gates belt. There is the part numbers right there. And I've had good experiences with Gates belts. In fact, I think most of the vehicles I've ever installed a Gates belt on, I think the belt outlasted the car itself. So Gates belt's pretty good. So I would recommend getting a Gates belt. And like I said, this one is good. No issues. Just simply doing it for the video purposes to show you how to do this because I had to take it off and troubleshoot that noise. So we're reusing this good Gates belt. Now, here is the belt routing diagram right here. All right, so that is the routing diagram. As you can see, it's not hard. We don't have a lot of pulleys here. It's pretty simple as far as belt drives go, in my opinion. So we're right here at the alternator. I would start from the top under the hood as we are right now. That would be my recommendation. And what I'm going to do is, as you can see, I have it folded essentially, just pressed together, almost like a tight rubber band. We're going to start feeding it down this side of that AC line. So just start feeding it down. All right. And now what you want to do is once you get this pretty much down, you want to have it opened up so both sides go on each side of the alternator pulley. Because obviously we got to get it around the alternator pulley. So that's what I'm doing now. Just working it around there. So we got one side on this side, one side on that. And just pull it down. Now you can also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach my hand under the fender well so I can pull it down like that. So I just reached my hand in from the fender well because I had the space, and look, I pulled that right over our alternator. So now from the alternator, it's going to go over our water pump. So you can almost get that from the top here. And you can feel it out, and yeah, it's pretty much aligned. Once we get it over everything else, it'll fall in line, but you kind of just want it to be in the general area. So now it's essentially, you know, on as best as we can get it from right here for right now. We're going to go ahead and tighten it up and get everything squared away from the fender well, and then we'll get this belt routed and get everything situated. So let's go back to the fender well. All right, guys, back in the fender well. I'll try to get you the best camera angle as I possibly can with the light. It's not going to be the easiest considering the space we have, but you know, you should get the idea. So as I mentioned, we already have it around the alternator. We already have it essentially on the water pump pulley. So from there, we can start routing it around the AC compressor, our belt tensioner, and our crank pulley. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get it around our AC compressor here. So go ahead and get it there. You can go ahead and take it to the crank. From the crank, you want to get it under the belt tensioner, like so. Just make sure you're actually getting it in the grooves. I just hit the camera, I apologize, but it is in my way, but it's got to be somewhere for you guys to see, right? And you can also see the pump literally right from here. So honestly, I think this is on. I think I got it in all the grooves. You can kind of feel it, like it shouldn't move. It should grab almost onto the grooves. So this thing feels pretty dialed in, to be honest. I'm just going to look for the top to make sure, but I think we got the belt back on, guys. All right, so I just checked from the top. Still on the alternator, still going over the pump as I wanted it to. So honestly, this thing is looking pretty good. I don't see any reason we can't go ahead and relieve the, or put the tension back, I should say, because the tension is relieved right now. So got my breaker bar here. All right, back on our 17 mil on the tensioner. Remember to turn it clockwise. You're just going to move it so you can get that Allen key, that 3/16 Allen out. So while you have the tension relieved, kind of slowly let it go back into place. And as you do it, just make sure your belt's staying in the same place. And there we go. I got that back into place with not much effort. And, you know, as long as you go about it how I did, you shouldn't fight it too much. It should be relatively simple. So there we go, guys. It looks pretty good. Everything feels good. You can see we got some good tension. Everything looks to be in order. So I believe we're good to go. We have our belt back routed. Everything is on. So really, it's just a matter of putting this back together now just to finalize it and button it back up. All right, guys, back under the hood. Just want to come up here and make sure everything looks good. I can see it in the grooves of the pump. I can see it in the grooves of the alternator. Shooting right down to our AC compressors. Probably hard to see from that angle, but it looks good, guys. So all we have to do is put our splash guards back in and get everything buttoned back up. But before you do so, while you got everything apart, I would suggest just go ahead and start it up. Make sure it looks good, sounds good, everything falls in line. So everything's looking good from here. I'm going to go ahead and start the car up. I'm going to see in my case if I solved any noise at all with that alternator. And in your case, you know, see if the belt solved your issue or, you know, whatever your issue might be. You know, hopefully this helped, and let's go ahead and start it up, and we'll see where we're at. All right, guys, let's fire up, see what we got. Sounds a million times better. Sounds great. So, definitely suggest you to do this. Make sure you got your sound resolved before you put everything back together. So we're good. Let this run for a second. I'll turn it off and then we'll get this back together. All right, guys, so we ran the car for a bit, on and off a few times. Everything feels good. Belt tension feels great. Everything looks good. Everything's in line. So we're going to go ahead and put this back together. Now, I think it's pretty self-explanatory how to put this back together since we took it apart. Wasn't a lot of complicated things we took apart to get to this. It's really just some fender liners. But, you know, we'll go over it real quick just to put it back together and you guys can, you know, see the whole job from start to finish. So, obviously, we pushed the fender liner back. We're just going to reverse that. I'm going to grab it from around the rotor and push it back up and in. All right. So it's pretty much in place. Now what I'm going to do is I want to go under and start from the bottom and just put a push clip in, and then we'll get everything back together and we'll start getting all these clips in. All right, guys, we're right back under the bumper corner here on the passenger side. So we had our push clip that we removed. You just got to get this back aligned, find the hole, push your push clip back in. There's that. I'm actually going to start our 3 Phillips back off. So they kind of give you a finger hole here you can align them with. So you can put your finger in one of these holes, find the hole in the little plastic screw adapter that's on the tab of the end of the fender liner. So there's one. The other one right here. This will be 2. Got it. And then the back corner one. Same deal. 3, guys. So all 3 of them are in. And I'm just going to go ahead and fire them in. I mean, we're already right here. Might as well just go ahead and get them seated in tight. So same way we took them off. I got a little impact. Good. Good. And good. So we got our push clip back, all 3 of our Phillips. So everything here on this corner is all situated, let's go back to the fender liner on the inner wheel well and get all that situated. All right guys, back in the inner fender liner. So if you remember, we had 3 clips that we took out right here. That will be this style clip. These are different than the 4 and the 5th one that retain the splash guard here where the oil filter is. So this style clip, so we got one right here, dead center in the middle. There's that. Go ahead and grab another one. All right, and we got that one right there. And then the last one is just going to be in that top corner, which is right up here. Go ahead and fire that push clip in. And then we got all 3 holding the fender liner in. So our fender liner is now fully back in, retained. And now we just have to grab our splash guard right here. Go ahead and grab our splash guard. And then literally you're just putting in your 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one on the bottom push clips, and then we'll have this back on. Okay, so I got our first one started, and all I got to do now is put these 3 in. And then keep in mind the one on the bottom is a different style. So the one on the bottom is a bit different than the standard Nissan clips. So these are really the standard Nissan clips that have been used for, 25 years about. So that's what all 4 of these are. We got this random bigger one for the bottom. So I'm gonna get the other ones going in the front. We'll get this bottom one in and then we'll be good to go. All right guys, we got our clips back in. So splash guard is installed. We got our fender liner back in. Everything is back covered up as it should be. And of course the only thing left would be putting our wheel back on. So other than that guys, we are done. So I hope this helped with doing the belt on your 5th gen Altima 2.5 4-cylinder. Make sure you stay tuned because you never know when I might be wrenching on this thing again. And until next time guys.